Britain's geographic location. Great Britain sits northwest of continental Europe, on the main island on the contemporary nation known as the United Kingdom. The English Channel divides Great Britain from France, while the North Sea lies to the northeast and the Atlantic Ocean on the west. Great Britain was a leader in international trade thanks to its proximity to mainland Europe and its location near large bodies of water. It has connections to the Mediterranean Sea and the rest of Europe, the Americas across the Atlantic Ocean, and Asia near the tip of Africa. The location of the Great Island made it simple to move raw materials to factories and finished goods to other locations for sale as the Industrial Revolution gained momentum. Great Britain is called Great for a reason, the land where the sun never sets. Her unparalleled influence and dominion over the world was so great that you can hardly imagine. Imagine an empire that spanned from parts of sub-Saharan Africa deep into Asia, all the way to the Americas, islands of Polynesia, Australia and New Zealand. But in 2022 alone, the Prime Minister of the UK changed 3 times. This instability comes on the back of hiked prices, inflation and a dwindling economy. With waning influence on the global stage, Britain still pulls weight as a member of the G7. Can Britain return to her glory days? What still makes Great Britain so powerful? Today, we begin with the geographical advantages of the world's most powerful island. If you like this kind of content, please support us by hitting the subscribe button. And now, let's go on. Geographic features. Great Britain has always been a good area to produce things and ship them due to these 2 geographical features. Firstly, the island has a lot of rivers that flow gently, and in the past, companies exploited these rivers as energy sources by installing water wheels in them, which turned the gears in the factories and powered the machinery that produced things. The rivers also moved goods between factories. The second geographical feature is an irregular shoreline that forms harbours, which are secure areas for ships to berth. Natural harbours in Great Britain encouraged the development of cities that served as major shipping hubs. Boats from the Atlantic Ocean, the North Sea, and the English Channel arrived in Great Britain's harbours carrying goods and people, which were then sold or transported to the interior by river. Natural resources. Coal, a natural resource that became crucial later in the Industrial Revolution and is still significant today, was abundant in Great Britain. Coal is a combustible rock, so it burns readily when ignited. Since coal was widely used in Great Britain, it was an affordable source that could be used to power industries and later railways. Coal-fueled engines took over as the primary source of energy for manufacturing, replacing water wheels. So the stage was set for them to take over the world. How the British Empire started. Over the course of around 3 centuries, the Crown of Great Britain and the British government brought a system of dependencies, colonies, protectorates, and other territories from all over the world under their control. This system is now known as the British Empire. The idea of a British Commonwealth emerged in the 20th century as a result of the policy of providing or acknowledging large levels of self-government by dependencies. This was encouraged by the empire's extensive reach. It consists of mostly autonomous dependencies that recognise the increasingly symbolic sovereignty of the United Kingdom. Currently, the Commonwealth is a free association of independent states that encompasses former parts of the British Empire. It was in the 16th century that Great Britain began its first ventures to found communities abroad. Due to commercial aspirations and competitions with France, maritime expansion increased in the 17th century, which led to the building of settlements in North America and the West Indies. While you might think these colonization efforts were the result of the effort on the part of the British monarch, nearly all of these colonies were the brainchild of specific enterprises and magnates. The colonies were largely self-managing businesses, while the Crown did have some appointment and oversight privileges. The formation of the empire was thus an unorganised process based on piecemeal acquisition, sometimes with the British government being the least willing partner in the enterprise. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the Crown exercised control over its colonies, chiefly in the areas of trade and shipping. In accordance with the mercantilist philosophy of the time, the colonies were regarded as a source of necessary raw materials for England and were granted monopolies for their products, such as tobacco and sugar, in the British market. In return, they were expected to conduct all their trade by means of English ships and to serve as markets for British manufactured goods. How it evolved. It's crazy how by 1850, Britain had 1.5% of the world's population, even with the British Isles having less than 0.2% of the landmass. The empire was a colossus in political, military and economic stages, with extensive colonial possessions and a large navy. In 1842, Britain humiliated the Chinese Empire by ceding Hong Kong and allowing British opium exports. Even where it did not exert formal control, Britain considerably influenced the economic policy of many states, as in the Indian subcontinent. Britain's manufacturing prowess led to its support for Brazilian independence and free trade in Egypt and Persia. The Industrial Revolution, which occurred in Britain after 1760, largely contributed to the country's rise to power, but elaborate studies have shown it is primarily due to the population increase. The slave trade was also crucial to Britain's colonial economy in the Americas, and it became an economic necessity for the Caribbean colonies and for the southern parts of the future United States. Movements for the end of slavery came to fruition in British colonial possessions long before the similar movement in the United States. The trade was abolished in 1807 and slavery itself in Britain's dominions in 1833. The movement was led by the British parliamentarian William Wilberforce. The empire was a force to be reckoned with, but today the island nation struggles to retain her status and the situation has worsened post-Brexit. The current case of Brexit. Brexit marks a significant moment for Britain, as it leaves the EU's single market structure, causing friction in trade relations and losing the automatic right to live and work across the EU. In June 2016, the UK voted to leave the EU, with most arrangements remaining under an 11-month transition period. In December 2022, the UK and EU reached a last-minute agreement on post-Brexit trade and future relations, avoiding a no-deal scenario. The transition period ended on December 31st, 2020, and the UK's new life outside the EU began on January 1st, 2021. The economy and trade. As in other countries, there are numerous factors behind the UK's economic woes, not least the fallout from the 2020 lockdowns, Russia's war on Ukraine, and the consequent energy crisis. But there is a near consensus among economists that Brexit has made them worse. Official figures have shown that its economy was alone among G7 countries in having shrunk. A report by the Centre for European Reform in December 2022 is the latest to illustrate how Brexit has hit the UK's GDP, investment and trade. Opinions vary over the impact of Brexit on the UK's high inflation rate, but it has been linked to rising food prices. In fact, several reports have detailed a steep fall in UK-EU imports and exports, with many particular smaller companies stopping cross-channel trade altogether. The EU-UK trade agreement, which came into force in 2021, allows for tariff-free, quota-free access to each other's markets for goods, but not services, and also covers future competition, fishing rights, and cooperation on matters such as security. The UK's departure from the EU single market and customs union led to new border formalities and regulatory controls, causing increased red tape and longer delivery times. The damage began before the UK left, with import prices rising due to the pound's fall. The EU report described uneven impacts across Europe, with northern and western regions more exposed. But under Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, Great Britain is becoming the hub for the future of finance. How it's becoming a crypto hub. Britain is on the cusp of becoming a global crypto hub. Since becoming Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak has committed to make the UK a global science and tech superpower. The UK government has announced £100 million for an expert task force to develop safe AI and a white paper. This initiative aims to make Britain the safest place to operate crypto asset businesses, benefiting millions of British people. The UK's reputation as a fintech leader presents a global opportunity for crypto asset regulation. Delivering on the government's ambition to build an effective regulatory framework will allow the sector to grow, create jobs, and will protect consumers by making this country one of the safest places to invest in crypto. The government, however, must act decisively. Remember last year's FTX scandal, which saw at least $1 billion of consumers' money lost. So, there's a great deal of uncertainty in financial markets, and the case for crypto regulation has never been greater. In becoming the world's largest crypto hub, Great Britain will once more assume her position as the centre of the world. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked this video or this kind of content, please subscribe to our channel by pressing the subscribe button below. Until next time.